And welcome into the Candidates Forum. I'm your host, Matt Pitta. Thanks for being here with us today, talking politics. And our focus is on the state committee races that are taking place here on Cape Cod. The incumbent state committee woman for the Cayman Islands District, Judy Crocker, is here. Judy, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Matt.
Thanks for stopping by. So we're in the middle of the election season here. Things are starting to get heated up, and with a lot of different races, especially this one, a lot of interest in the state committee race this year. But even with that said, Judy, a lot of people say, the state committee race? What exactly does that person do, right? I mean, there are a couple of things. You're elected at different times of the year, et cetera. So we should probably just start out and get an overview of what a state committee person is.
Well, essentially, we're the board of directors for the state Republican Party. So there are 80 state committee people. There are 40 men and 40 women. A little archaic, but there's a man and a woman in every district. And we represent the state Senate districts. There are 40 state Senate districts, and this one in particular is the Cayman Islands district. So it goes from Pitta Provincetown and includes both islands.
Mm-hmm. So what's your role? Is it basically to encourage Republican candidates to get into office and encourage people to support Republican candidates, right?
Exactly. I mean, our job is to recruit candidates, to help them, tell them what they need to know, tell them what they need to know to run a campaign, support them, act as a liaison to the party for them, suggest people that they should meet and talk to, maybe introduce them to the current elected officials if they don't already know them, so that they can get help and support from them. It's to go to the town committee meetings, make sure they're vibrant and active. Every town pretty much on the Cape has a town committee and go to all of those meetings and just be active. I mean, during election season, my counterpart, Fran Manzelli, and I are probably at 2 or 3 events a week.
Mm-hmm. So even though there's a state committee man and woman, each voter gets to vote for both of you.
That's right. It is a separate line on the ballot. Mm-hmm. You vote for one state committee man and one state committee woman.
Now, Fran, I think, has been in office for 10 years. He's running for re-election as well as an incumbent. How many terms have you been in now?
I was elected in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I was first elected in 2012. And I've been involved in the party since 2006, when my husband, Will Crocker, ran for state rep the first time.
So since then, what do you think you could tell the voters have been accomplishments that you may have made in this position, with the backdrop being that your goal is basically to get Republicans elected into office? So have you had some success stories?
Yes, we've had a lot of success stories. I mean, our job is state committee, so it's more of your state legislative candidates. We've actually been able to increase the number by almost 30%. We picked up 2 seats that were held by Democrats, Tim Whelan, Will Crocker. And Vinny DiMacedo was previously held by a Democrat when he was in the state Senate district. Granted, it's not my district, but I was very helpful and instrumental on that campaign. I worked with Vinny and I helped him raise funds so that he could run for re-election. Yeah,
I mean, that district still has a significant number of people on the Cape, on the Upper Cape, and Falmouth and Bourne and Sandwich. So yes, while your district was not directly involved with it, I would imagine that there is crossover in terms of you trying to have some influence in helping your counterparts over in that district as well, right?
Yeah, we work very closely together, our counterparts in the Plymouth Barnstable district, and the reason is it's the Cape. And most people, when you say you're the Cayman Islands State Committee person, they assume it's the entire Cape and both islands. So, and it's not. We don't. There are 3 towns we don't have. But if you look at sheriff and DA and register of probate and register of deeds and all the seats that we hold, they're Cape-wide. So we get involved in the other district as well, and we work together very closely with our counterparts there.
So as people are watching this, and if maybe they're learning about what this seat is for the first time, as you said, they may say, well, what have you done? And you were illustrating it. So it's interesting to go back and kind of look at the seats that you did capture as a Republican, Tim Whelan's seat, which for many years previously had been held by a Republican, but did switch to Democrat, very solidly Democratic.
Ed Take, Tom George.
Right, and then solidly Democratic after that for a couple of terms, right? So that was kind of a challenging seat to get back when Cleon Turner, the Democratic incumbent, decided not to run for re-election. So when you looked at a seat like that,
well, especially with Tim Whelan living in Brewster,
right? So what was
when
your
the heart of the
strategy
district is Dennis. So, well, I mean, it took a lot of fundraising, a lot of door knocking, a lot of voter contact. Tim had a great team. He met with his team regularly. I was able to, talk to members of his team and help where he needed it. We, lobbied the state party for different things that he needed to be successful, to make sure the resources were allocated here. And that's important. And he worked hard. He had a primary they had a primary on the other side, which gave Tim a little bit of an advantage so that he could go out and just focus on, his race. And he did. And we were successful that night. It was great. It was a great night.
So the other success, that was a successful run. One that I would say was probably even more successful in kind of historically. When you look at it as somebody who follows politics historically, and I know it was obviously near and dear to your heart because it's your husband, Will Crocker, that was able to capture the 2nd Barnstable seat, which I don't even remember off the top of my head the last time a Republican held it. You probably know.
I don't know.
Right?
It's been that long.
Anybody knows, right?
It's been that long.
So you were able to capture that seat as well. So talk about that. I mean, that was, I would imagine you would point to that as a success story, that during your tenure, that seat was flipped.
That seat was flipped. And that was, it was in a presidential year. It was the first time in 34 years the Republican Party picked up a seat in a presidential year. So added a seat to the state legislature. And I was the campaign manager.
So what was that strategy?
That strategy was, taking a very wide universe, a presidential universe, and trying to touch 85% of the voters in that universe. I had a great candidate. I know he's my husband, but it doesn't really matter. You need someone who's willing to put in the work. We came up with a strategy. Will knocked on 120 doors a day, 6 days a week. We had a great follow-up strategy, a lot of technical aspects to it. Before he knocked, after he knocked. We had a team of people making phone calls. We raised quite a bit of money, over $100,000 both times. 160 in his second race between in-kind and, self funds. So, we worked really, really hard and, again, lobbying for the party to make sure he had the resources he needed. And we were victorious.
And a lot of shoes. I remember he went through a lot of shoes.
A lot of shoes, a lot of shoes. It's interesting, you can get criticized for not being successful in certain races as a state committee person. But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I don't care if they're your husband or your friend or someone else that you barely know. You can tell them what they need to do to win, but they have to be willing to do it. They have to be willing to pick up the phone and ask for money. They have to be willing to knock on the doors of strangers. They have to be willing to make the phone calls. And if they're not willing to do that, there's only so much you can do as a state committee person.
So as you said, what we're hearing, that you would say if someone's wondering why should I vote for you, re-elect you, you're looking at your record of success and that you had been involved in helping switch almost 30% of the seats in Barnstable County.
Yeah, I've worked on everything from town council races to presidential races. I've run the gamut. I have both worked as a paid political consultant outside of my district and as a volunteer inside my district. I've done fundraising, I've done campaign management. I have a lot of experience and expertise in the subject. I mean, advertising is a huge part of winning an election. You have to have top of mind awareness. You have to have name recognition. I run an advertising agency. This is something I know something about and can impart that wisdom on the candidates. This race has become very nationally focused when the job really has nothing to do with national politics and everything to do with local politics. But even with that, I've been endorsed by the 2016 and 2020 Massachusetts Trump chairs. I've been endorsed by Congressman Lamar Smith, who I worked on in a congressional race. He's from Texas, but I worked on him with him on a local race. I've been endorsed by the sheriff, the DA, the Register of Probate, the Register of Deeds, the Clerk of Courts, and every sitting state rep, Republican state rep in the district, as well as some previous, like Tom George and Shirley Gomes and Joanne Sprague. And the reason for that is because they know that I know how to help Republicans win. And isn't that the job?
You're watching the Candidates Forum. I'm your host today, Matt Pitta. Judy Crocker is our guest. She's the incumbent state committee woman for the Cape and Islands District. Just a couple of quick follow-ups and a couple of moments we have left. So what's interesting is, so this job doesn't, so you don't have any influence on national politics, or really, even I think on Beacon Hill, it's about just on the local level. It's about being able to show that you have a track record of getting somebody into office locally. There's not a national component to this.
No, I mean, not in the presidential level. Like, for example, last year, 2 years ago now, Peter Tedeschi ran for Congress, and he needed to know who does this in this town or that in that town, and they'll contact the state committee people because we have the contacts within the district. But that's pretty much the extent of it. We're really focused on recruiting candidates for the state legislature.
So we'll do a little speed round here because we're going to be short on time, but just a couple of quick questions. What is going to be your strategy moving forward over the next couple of weeks to get reelected? And then if you are reelected, what will be your strategy to continue to recruit Republican candidates moving forward?
Well, a lot of doors, a lot of phone calls, a lot of earned media and paid media. Additionally, strategy is to work with the town committees and boards of selectmen and councilors and find people that are excited and doing a good job there and encouraging them to run at the next level.
So then what sets you apart from your opponent in this race? What would you say?
Well, I've been a member of a town committee. I've been a chair of a town committee. I've worked on campaigns. I've successfully won races. And, I've been an activist and been involved. I met my opponent for the first time in Republican politics at a town committee meeting, and it was her first time there in her own town.
What are some of the places people can find more about you, Judy? Websites, social media, et cetera?
All of the above. So I have a website, electjudycrocker.com. It has a calendar section with a complete list of all the Republican events going on in Cape Cod. Additionally, I have a Facebook page, State Committeewoman Judy Crocker. My cell phone number is on both. They can call me or they can email me at judy@electjudycrocker.com.
So, people's attention spans are short these days, right? So give the viewers 1-2 bullet points. Why re-elect Judy Crocker for State Committeewoman?
If you want someone with experience, expertise, and enthusiasm, you need to elect Judy Crocker because I have proven strategies to win.
Well, Judy, good luck on the campaign trail. We appreciate you being here on today's Candidates Forum.
Thank you.
Good luck. And thanks for being with us today. I'm your host, Matt Pitta.